Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for that delay. Please give your full and complete undivided attention to Joshua Furtado.
First, I would like to thank you for having me here today. It's a real honor to be able to speak in front of everybody. So, my paper topic was Justice is Blind, the judicial system in the Soviet Union. So, I want to put this into context first. So we're going to start a little bit earlier than the actual judicial system that I'll be discussing in a little bit later in my presentation. So we're going to start with a quick overview. First, in 1917, the Tsar rule fell. The bourgeoisie was overtaken by the mass population that didn't like the small minority running the majority. In 1922, they officially changed their name from Soviet Russia to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, or as we better know it, we know it, USSR. And in 1929, Stalin came into power. Now, Stalin really wanted to promote the idea of socialism, wanted everyone to realize we can work together as a community, we can build a better society if we all work together. And he wanted to bring those who were in the rural areas into the urban settings in order to bring all of the population as one giant union. Now, I want you to keep in mind this when I go a little bit further. With the socialism ideology, they're trying to distance themselves from capitalism. In their view, capitalism was just not a place that you can really thrive. I have two propaganda posters here. The first one, where we have this poor, sad worker. The caption states, in a country of capitalism, the violation of working people's rights. And on our left, we have, in the country of socialism, the right to work. Everyone has the right to work. You shouldn't have to fight for a job. You should be able to get a job. On our other one, we have our artistic portion of those in socialist versus capitalist countries. On the right is a capitalist, says, in a country of capitalism, the path of the talent ends. On our left, it says, in a country of socialism, the path of the talented. If you're talented, you can go far in a socialist society. Stalin promoted this. He put out all this propaganda to promote that we are one nation, we are collective, we are the people of this country. The rich no longer rule us, we rule us. So he was fighting for equal rights and equal opportunity for everyone. However, this wouldn't last much longer. When right after Stalin came into power, Germany was threatening the Soviet Union. And so Stalin wanted to really focus on more traditional ways of life to keep the morale of the people. It's really difficult to change the mind of the people when you're trying to then also fight off another nation. Now, I would like you to meet somebody who was most of the inspiration of my research. This is Dina Kamenskaya. She was a defense advocate in the Soviet Union. Most of my paper revolved around her writing and what she had experienced in the Soviet Union. Her book that I used is Final Judgment, My Life as a Soviet Defense Advocate. She discusses how the harsh reality of what the Soviet judicial system was doing to the people. Excuse me. Most of her writing is about a couple of cases that she did and her own trials getting through these cases. And what defense advocates did in the Soviet Union was try to get their clients fair trials. Weren't always about are they innocent or guilty, it's they wanted them to have a fair trial. However, this wasn't always easy. Anyone who had been accused of committing a crime in the Soviet Union, especially during the late 1920s, 1930s, were thought of as criminals against the government or the country. They were against the people. They were trying to bring down their socialist society. These people did not want to work within the system. So they weren't treated as people most of the time. They had, this is just a picture I pulled up from the web. I couldn't actually find one of an actual Soviet jail cell, but this is about what's described in multiple articles I read. Small cells, confined, they weren't allowed to see friends, they had very limited connection with their families, they had meager meals, most of them were psychologically tortured during their time in this prison. And through all of this, they were not given a defense advocate. In the Soviet justice system during this time, they could be kept in a cell about this size for up to 8 months without seeing someone who could help defend them. Many of them cracked under this pressure and stated that they committed a crime that they never did just to get out of this. This is not the socialist society that Stalin was envisioning. This is completely different than what anyone would think of. Many people in the population did not know how the criminals were treated. They thought they went to jail, they were given their trials, and they were out. Or they went to prison if they were found guilty. This wasn't the case, and this is not what happened to many of the people in this society. Now, conditions, like I said, were so harsh that they confessed to crimes. Now, this is all really, really dark. So here's some Russian wilderness that we can look at. This is a little bit more pleasant after that dark cell that they were forced to live in. Now enters the defense advocate. Imagine someone had been in prison for 8 months, had not confessed to this crime, were distraught, were broken down. The defense advocate comes in to try to help them get a fair trial. In this whole 8 months, the prosecution has had many, many opportunities to build a case against these people in order to convict them. Defense advocate could have as little as 2 weeks before trial in order to get their client a fair trial, and hopefully presumed innocent if they were innocent, and many times they weren't. The court system was set up with a lot of people that were for the party. They were for the government. Although judges were supposed to remain biased, they very rarely were. Dina Kamenskaya notes that she had yet to meet a completely biased judge. The prosecution, of course, wasn't biased. They wanted these people locked up. Whether they were innocent or guilty, they saw them as criminals, as somebody who was trying to take down the state. A lot of this came about because of possible German invasion. Now, they're Russian citizens, but maybe they don't like the Russian society. And this is the thought process that went through many of their minds, that they were working for the Germans or other foreign nations to bring down socialism. No specific reasons why, they just didn't want that to be, they just didn't want them to continue with whatever they thought they were doing. In Dina Kamenskaya's book, she does discuss one case of 2 people who were accused of murder. She never actually completes how their trial completed, but the trial and everything went on for over 3 years, just for this one, just for this crime, which 3 years is a long time for a murder trial, especially since the murder had taken place in a small village. It wasn't like a large city. It was just a small village where they were accused of murdering, I believe it was a young woman, and they were kept in prison for 7 months in their case, and then she came in and fought after they had had 3 defense advocates that dropped them. 3 defense advocates felt that their careers were not worth losing over this one trial. And that was a big thing for defense advocates, is they had to fight cases against the system. They were fighting for somebody that they thought could be innocent, but then they were viewed as enemies of the state. You're fighting for someone who's against what we are against, therefore you're also against what we're against. So many defense advocates would not take on high priority cases. They would take smaller cases, that it was just this small localized case where if they win, it's not that big of a deal. If they lose, they just continue on. Like I said, in many cases, they were the defendants were thought of as guilty before they even set foot in a court, and with that, it's my presentation. Here's my references, if anyone's curious.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Okay. Our next presenter